Behind the Paris lens, Taehyung's intimate moments captured by Nuna V hint at hidden presence. Why do these photos feel different? Taehyung has always been known for his love of aesthetics, vintage film tones, melancholic architecture, stolen glances between shadows and light. But his latest Paris photo collection, uploaded under his iconic alias Nuna V, feels like something more. Something too personal, too still, too close. AS fans around the world zoomed in on each frame, admiring the muted colors and poetic composition. One detail caught their attention, then refused to let go: a faint reflection, a curved shadow, a hand at the bottom right of a frame, holding what looks unmistakably like a camera. Not Taehyung's camera, someone else's, and suddenly the question spreads like wildfire. Was Jungkook behind the lens? From the narrow cobblestone alleys of Montmartre to the sun-drenched rooftops that only locals know, Taehyung's photos don't just show Paris, they breathe it. But more than that, they watch him. Many shots feel like he wasn't alone, like someone was quietly following, not just photographing the scenery, but him. One particular photo stirred the deepest reactions. A black and white still of Taehyung in profile, sitting on a hotel bed, gazing out a lace-curtained window. The angle is candid, far too organic to be a selfie. And there, in the reflection of the window pane, is the unmistakable silhouette of someone holding a camera. Not just holding, but waiting. The stance is familiar. The posture is relaxed yet alert. And for fans who have followed Jungkook's every behind-the-scenes moment for years, the shape of that stance isn't unfamiliar at all. IT screams of him, but why wouldn't they credit him? Why wouldn't team tag him, mention him, or even acknowledge the extra presence? Perhaps because he didn't need to, because if you know, you know. And for those who've watched their friendship unfold over years of shared stages, lingering glances, private jokes, and matching tattoos, this silence is its own confirmation. Nuna V's Paris series isn't just a travel diary. It's a love letter, or maybe a confession. The intimacy of the framing, the softness of Taehyung's expressions, the sense that these are not posed, but observed, all point to someone deeply trusted behind the camera. Someone who knows him, not just as V of BTS, but as Kim Taehyung, the boy who finds peace in silence and meaning in shadows. And Jungkook? He's not just a singer. He's a visual storyteller, a photographer in his own right. He's shared countless frames before, snapshots of his members, of quiet mornings, of golden hour skies. And when he captures someone he loves, it shows. The emotional distance between subject and photographer collapses, and that's exactly what these photos feel like. One fan wrote, "These aren't just photos. These are moments only someone in the room could have taken, someone invited into that moment." Another added, "There's a comfort in Taehyung's face I haven't seen since 2022. This isn't a model posing. This is someone being seen." But the clues don't stop there. And another shot, taken at dusk on a Parisian bridge. Taehyung is laughing, slightly off balance, as if reacting to someone just out of frame. The picture is tilted, spontaneous, mid-motion, and it bears the unmistakable energy of a shared joke. Fans analyzed the motion blur and angle, concluding it wasn't taken with a tripod or a timer. Someone was there. Someone was close enough to catch him falling into joy. And again, that right-hand silhouette, that subtle echo of another figure, of Jungkook. Why keep it secret? Why not post a joint photo, the way they used to during earlier tours? Maybe because this trip wasn't about the fans. Maybe it wasn't even about Celine. Maybe it was about them. Two souls worn from years of fame, finding sanctuary not in luxury suites or fashion parties, but in each other's quiet company, a private pause in a very public life. And then there's the final nail, a photo, seemingly innocent, showing a table for two at a tiny cafe, half-drunk espressos, one cigarette burning in an ashtray. No faces, no people. Just presence. One seat has a black hoodie draped over the backrest. And if you really zoom in, there's an embroidery on the hem, a tiny letter J, not a brand logo, just a letter. Could it mean nothing? Could it mean everything? For fans, it means this. Behind every Nuna V photo is a story untold, a gaze unspoken, a presence unconfirmed but felt. And this Paris trip, wrapped in shadows and sepia, Maybe the most intimate story, YET. Maybe the question isn't was Jungkook there? Maybe the real question is, did he ever leave? Because behind every photo Taehyung shared, someone was watching, and the lens didn't just capture Paris. IT captured him, as only someone who loves him could. And maybe that's the reason why these images have lingered in fans' minds longer than any curated editorial from a fashion shoot. Because this wasn't just a documentation of Paris. This was Taehyung, caught in someone's gaze, a gaze that knows his every nuance, that catches his smile even before it forms, that senses when he exhales deeply not because he's tired, but because he's safe. And isn't that what these photos whisper to us? That he was safe. That someone was with him in a way no manager, stylist, or bodyguard ever could be. Some fans have begun calling it the invisible photographer theory, a belief that Jungkook was present throughout Taehyung's Paris journey, not as a fellow public figure, but as a ghost behind the camera. Watching, framing, preserving the private Taehyung the world rarely gets to see, because only someone who understands Taehyung's silence would know exactly when to click the shutter. The shadow in the cafe window, the hand reflected in the brass lamp, the subtle mirroring of angles from Jungkook's old travel photos, down to the same dreamy softness in focus. It all builds a narrative too intentional to be accidental. Even the caption Taehyung left beneath his final Paris photo, a dimly lit corridor leading to a sunlit window, felt like a quiet goodbye. Some places heal you, but it's not the place, it's who walks through it with you. Was that about Paris? Or about someone in Paris? And suddenly, everything starts making sense. The duality of the trip. The way Taehyung presented himself as both host and guest. The calm in his expression that even the most flattering Vogue pictorials never quite captured. A calm that only shows up when he's around someone who makes the noise stop. Let's talk about timing. Jungkook hasn't updated fans in weeks. No selfies. No voice notes. No surprise live streams. For someone who once shared his nighttime baking and gym sessions religiously, this silence feels deliberate. And now, after the release of Nuna V's Paris Gallery, fans think they know why. Because maybe he has been speaking all along, just through Taehyung's eyes. There's also the re-emergence of a fan theory dating back to 2021, that Taehyung and Jungkook sometimes operate through shared digital cues. A single emoji, a caption, a lyric. Fans believe that when one goes silent, the other becomes louder, but in different ways. And in this case, Taehyung's photos are screaming Jungkook's name. Take the composition, the choice of film grain, the subjects half captured, half fading into the frame. That's a storytelling style Jungkook has used before, most notably in his travelogue from Tokyo, which was released years ago and showed him wandering quiet alleys, coffee shops, rooftops. Always slightly out of focus. Always poetic. Always a step removed. But Nuna V's latest work feels like an answer to that. Though Taehyung has borrowed Jungkook's gaze, or maybe returned it. And perhaps the most damning hint of all, a single Polaroid posted to Nuna V's private feed for friends, which was quickly screenshotted and leaked. A shot of 2 cups of hot chocolate, side by side, placed on a piano bench. The background? A familiar wooden studio floor. But neither figure was visible, only the caption. Quiet, just like us. And fans lost it, because who else would sit on a piano bench with Taehyung in total silence and be understood completely? Who else has shared so many songs with him, both released and unreleased? Who else has been there since the beginning? And now, after military service, fame, exhaustion, and distance, is still right there. It's not about proving Jungkook was in Paris. It's about understanding why he might have chosen to stay hidden. Because some stories aren't meant to be told with press releases or paparazzi shots. Some stories are told in the way someone lets their guard down. I end the way a shoulder relaxes. Did I end the way a photograph captures someone breathing again? And maybe that's the real reason Nuna V's Paris photos feel so sacred. Because they aren't about the fashion. They're not even about the city. They're about what happens when someone who's known chaos finally chooses calm. And maybe, just maybe, that calm had a name, or at the very least, a camera at when Taehyung walked those ancient Paris streets, laughing under lamplight and pausing to sip espresso at dusk. Maybe he wasn't alone. Maybe he was being seen, not by us, not by media, but by the one person who's always seen him as more than just a star, the one who followed him without saying a word, and never needed to. Because sometimes, love doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes, it shows up as a silent presence behind a lens, a hand adjusting the focus, a laugh kept off camera, a memory etched into 35mm film. And maybe that's why Taehyung didn't need to tag Jungkook, didn't need to say his name. Because for those who followed their story closely, the pauses, the glances, the mirrored tattoos, the years of music and unspoken loyalty, these Paris photos say more than words ever could. They are proof. Without confession, presence without performance. And for those still doubting, still demanding clarity, still clinging to logic, Taehyung already gave you the answer. Not in a press release, not in a Weverse post, but in that final, haunting photo. The golden light spilling through an open Paris window, washing over two chairs facing one another. Empty. Or maybe not, because in that stillness, in that frame, there is something more than absence. There is intimacy, there is history, there is him. And somewhere, behind the curtain of what we're allowed to see, a shutter quietly clicks, and the story continues.